Hi everyone, thanks for so much for joining me today. I'm Nikki Buckley and I run East Midlands HR. We work with small businesses across the East Midlands and also into London as well on the kind of HR situations that keep business owners up at night. Today we're going to be talking about dismissal. And I want to be upfront from the start. This is one of the areas where we see the most avoidable mistakes. And it's not because employers have um, bad intentions, but it's process. Because the process is more detailed than most people realise, and the consequences of getting it wrong are getting significantly more serious, that's where people get it wrong. The law is changing in ways that directly affect how you handle the first few months of employment during a probation. Tribunal claims are at record levels, and the rules around what constitutes a fair dismissal haven't really changed. They're just being tested much more often. Today we're going to talk you through what fair dismissal actually requires, where the most common mistakes happen, and what you should do before you act on any situation involving dismissal. So I want to quickly set out who this session is for, because dismissal isn't a topic most business owners are thinking about until they're already in the middle of a situation. And that's exactly the problem. Most of the calls we get to our HR advice line go something like this. Someone will ring and say, I'll need you to let someone go. Can you help me sort the paperwork? They just need to go. And the first question we would ask is, well, what process have you followed so far? And often we get a bit of a silence and then we go, not much. And that's not unusual. We get it. Owners are busy. You're dealing with the situation for months. You're getting frustrated. You just want it resolved. But by the time they call, sometimes the window for running a defensible process has already been narrowed quite a lot. So this session is about getting ahead of that. If you've ever found yourself in that position, or if you're nervous about what you'd do if a situation came to a head, you're exactly on the right webinar for this. So I'm going to spend a few minutes on the changes that are coming because they're significant. A lot of business owners don't know about them yet. We have got other videos that you can review as well to help you go over those, and they're all very short videos as well. So from January 2027, the qualifying period for unfair dismissal drops from 2 years to 6 months. This means that anyone you employ from the 1st of July 2026 onwards will have the right to bring an unfair dismissal claim after just 6 months in the job. For context, previously most small businesses could manage the risk during the first 2 years with reasonable confidence, and that window shrinks dramatically. On top of that, from January 2027, there'll be no cap on what a tribunal can award. So the financial exposure from a badly handled dismissal is increasing at exactly the same time as the pool of employees who can claim is expanding. Tribunal claims are already at record levels, 54% increase in quarter three of 2025-2026. The Fair Work Agency, they've made their first conviction now already. They also have the power to audit your records without waiting for a formal complaint. So if your documentation is thin, inconsistent, that's a risk that exists even when no one has raised a grievance. None of this is designed to scare you at all, but it's the landscape we're operating in. It changes how seriously you take the processes and how early you have to start thinking it seriously with new starters. So let's get into the substance. What does fair dismissal actually require? Tribunals apply a 3-part test. The employer needs to show that there was a potentially fair reason for dismissal. They need to show that a fair process was followed. And they need to show that the decision to dismiss was in the range of reasonable responses, meaning that it was a decision a reasonable employer could have reached. Most employers understand the first part. They know that they need a reason. Where they underestimate the challenge is in the other two. So we've seen situations where the reason was completely legitimate, the employer was justified, and a tribunal still found against them because the process wasn't followed correctly or the outcome letter didn't clearly explain the reasoning. The reason alone doesn't protect you. This is why I always say to get advice before you dismiss, not after. Once you've acted, the process you've followed is fixed and you can't go back and redo it. So there are 5 potentially fair reasons for dismissal in the UK employment law. conduct. So this covers disciplinary matters, behaviour, misconduct. It requires an investigation, disciplinary process, and a proportionate outcome. Capability. Now, this covers performance, but it also covers ill health. Each situation is handled differently, and capability dismissals, in particular, require evidence the employee was given a fair opportunity to improve with support. Redundancy. So, again, this has its own process, including a selection criteria, consultation period, and consideration of alternatives. It's not just a way of ending employment when you want to restructure. A statutory bar, or this applies when continuing to employ someone would break the law, for example, if they've lost their right to work in the UK. And finally, there's some other substantial reason known as SOSR. And this is a legitimate ground, but it's widely misunderstood. And we're going to come into it in the next slide because it's where a lot of employers get it wrong. They think they can put everything into the SOSR reason. So this SOSR exists as a category for situations that don't fall neatly into the other four grounds. It can apply in genuine circumstances, for example, where there's irreconcilable breakdown in a working relationship, or where a client has withdrawn work and there's no genuine redundancy situation. Problem is that small employers sometimes reach for it when a situation feels complicated or when they're not confident that they can evidence one of the other grounds, and tribunals see straight through that. SOSR requires genuine evidence business justification. You can't just say it wasn't working out or the client asked us to remove them. You have to show what the business reason actually was, why it was substantial, and why dismissal was the appropriate response. So client pressure situations are a particular common trap of this. If a client says they don't want someone on their account, that alone isn't sufficient. You still have to investigate the situation, consider whether the client's concerns are valid, look at alternatives, and follow a fair process. Jumping straight to the dismissal because a client pushed for it has a shortcut that has cost employers significantly. If you're looking at a situation and reaching for SOSR because you can't quite fit it into any of the other categories, that's the exact moment to pick up the phone and just do a sense check with us, please. So, whatever the reason for dismissal, the process matters enormously. I'm going to walk you through what a defensible process looks like. Starts with an investigation. Before any decision is made about whether to hold a formal meeting, you need to establish the facts. That means speaking to relevant people, reviewing any evidence, and documenting what you find. The investigation should be conducted by someone without a stake in the outcome where possible. Then comes the formal meeting. The employee should receive written notification in advance, setting out the allegations or concern and their right to be accompanied. The meeting itself should cover the evidence, give them a genuine opportunity to respond, and not be used as a formality where the decision has already been made. The right to be accompanied matters. Employees have a legal right to be accompanied by a colleague or a trade union representative at a disciplinary hearing. If that right is denied or brushed off, that's a process failure. The outcome must be communicated in writing and should explain the decision clearly, the reasons for and what the next steps are. Then there's the right of appeal. Every dismissed employee should be given the opportunity to appeal. It gives you the chance to catch any process errors before they become tribunal evidence. Now, running all of that correctly is one thing, recording it is just as important. Every stage should generate a full detailed record. That means notes taken at the time, not a summary written up afterwards from memory. Tribunals are experienced at spotting reconstructed records, and they don't carry the same weight. So one of the things we do with our clients is we PDF the emails and start to put them all together in a pack. So as we're going through it, every email is recorded, whether it's been sent or it's received, what it's got with it, because all this will be coming to your tribunal pack. Your investigation notes should cover who you spoke to, what they said. Your invite letter should be correctly worded. Meeting notes should capture what was said by both sides. It doesn't have to be word for word verbatim, but it should be a true indication of the meeting. Your outcome letter should be clear on the reason and the process followed. And if there's an appeal, that needs its own paper trail too. So this Fair Work agency can now request and audit your records without waiting for a complaint. If those records are thin or inconsistent, that's a risk to your business even before any individual claim is made. So this is the area I want to make sure that everyone leaves today or after you've viewed the video, make sure that you understand it, because it's one that catches employers off guard the most. If an employee has at any point before their dismissal raised concerns about health and safety, legal compliance, or other certain qualifying matters, that may constitute a protected disclosure under whistleblowing legislation. If that's the case and the employer then dismisses them, that dismissal is automatically unfair. It doesn't matter what the stated reason for dismissal was, it doesn't matter how well the process was followed, it doesn't matter how clean the documentation looks. If a tribunal determines that the dismissal was connected to a protected disclosure, the outcome is automatically unfair dismissal with no cap on compensation. The problem is that employers often don't realise a protected disclosure has been made. The employee might have raised a concern informally. They might have sent an email flagging something months ago that you've not taken seriously, and that concern may still qualify. So before you dismiss anyone, you need to ask, has this person raised any concerns about safety, legal compliance, or anything that might qualify? If the answer is yes, or you're not sure, that's the moment to get advice. The cost of getting this wrong is open-ended. So let's bring this together into some practical advice for you. Before you dismiss anyone, work through these 4 questions. Okay, number 1, is the reason genuinely one of the 5 fair grounds? If you're reaching for SOSR because you're not sure, that's a signal to just pause a minute, have a rethink, review. Number 2, have you investigated properly and documented it? That means a real investigation, not a quick conversation with yourself. Number 3, have you followed a fair process, including giving the employee a genuine right to appeal? Number 4, critically, is there any chance a protected disclosure has been made? Has this employee raised any concerns, whether it's formal or informally? And that's exactly where we can help. We can sit with you before you take any action and review the reason, the evidence, the process, what you're planning to do. We can identify whether there are any hidden risks you might not have spotted, check whether your documentation would hold up if it was to be scrutinised. For a lot of business owners and line managers that we work with, that conversation changes what they do next. Sometimes it gives them confidence to proceed. Sometimes it identifies a step they've missed. Occasionally it flags a risk serious enough to warrant a different approach entirely. But the point is you're making a better informed decision with less exposure to your business. So thank you so much for joining us today. I hope this has given you a clearer picture of what fair dismissal actually involves and why the process matters so much, particularly given the changes that are coming. If you've got a situation that you're currently working through or one that's been sitting in the background for a while, we offer a free 30-minute call where we can bring the situation, and we'll tell you where you stand. No obligation, no agenda, just a practical conversation so you can make a decision with a clearer head. On the screen there, that is there's details to follow us with the website. You can email me. We've got a LinkedIn profile as well. The QR code, that will take you to our East Midlands LinkedIn page. Do follow that because we're putting more things on there to make sure you're always going to be updated with all the next lot of employment legislation changes coming in October 2026. So thanks again. My name is Nikki Buckley from East Midlands HR.